All right, welcome back. We are Mike Bradley. This is Corey Taylor. We are here for another show. Again, like we said before, I'm a 26-year veteran police officer from Northern California, and Corey is also from a veteran police officer or a highway patrol or Virginia State Trooper, I should say. And we are here with some more topics to give to you and talk about what's coming up. We had a question from our last show that was brought up to us, and that was about how do you know that there's a real officer that's behind you, that's pulling you over? How do you know that that's a legitimate officer? And the answer to that really is pretty simple. Number one is get to know your local police departments or your highway patrols or your state troopers so that you know what their cars look like. There should be at least a red flashing light in front of you. That's usually standard throughout this country anyway. But make sure you know what your local police department patrol cars look like. That way you at least have that ability. Now, when we go on stops out here in California, you could, if you really are unsure, once you pull over, you can get on your cell phone real quick and call your local police department. So that way you have your non-emergency local police department phone number programmed into your cell phone. That way you can give them a call and they should be able to tell you if there's an officer that's pulling you over at that very moment. They should be able to tell you that officer's name, the location that officer is pulling you over. So when that officer comes up and approaches your window, you can ask him those questions and he or she should know those questions. You'll be confident that, yeah, this is a legitimate officer that's pulling me over because I spoke to the police dispatcher and they already knew what was going on. So that should be the quick answer to that. You got anything to add to that, Corey?
No, I think that's pretty right on point there. Same thing if you're up on the interstate, if you're uncertain. I think within the last couple of years, the state police and local PDs have added the red lights to the light bars on the police vehicles now. So, which is a good thing. It helps give more visibility to the officers on the road. But yeah, just here in the state of Virginia, just call your non-emergency number and let them know where you are, and they'll guide you in proper directions on what you need to take. So yeah, don't go and try to take matters into your own hand. So again, like Mike said, I'm Corey Taylor. I'm a former Virginia State police officer, 7 years, and a retired Navy Chiefs Petty Officer. And today's topic is going to be the characteristics of a good and bad police officer. All right, before we dive into it, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our channel so that you stay up to date with all our latest videos. And we thank you so very much for all the great feedback we got last week for our first video. We thank you. We thank you. We thank you.
Absolutely.
Much praise and glory to God for laying this upon our hearts to do this, to put this information out to you all. And also to Mike, before we dive in, I'm just going to say, we know that the viewers that are watching our channel, we know that you all are not the criminals, but what we challenge you all to do is share this information that you are getting from us with those that who are out here doing these things. Now Mike and I both know, and you all know, that criminals aren't going to watch this show, right? What are criminals doing? They're out there doing what they're not supposed to be doing. Right. So we challenge you all to take this information and share it with your family, and also those that who are out here doing what they're not supposed to be doing, that are more than likely to have a run-in with law enforcement. All right. And so, without further ado, we get into our topic again. It's going to be about the characteristics of a police officer, good and bad characteristics. And we hope that what you get out of this is kind of the right kind of mindset an officer should have to do this type of line of work. I know for me, Mike, and I've had this conversation with my own mother, is that I think as a law enforcement officer, to me, it's like a calling. Almost like if you recall to ministers being called to preach the word of God. A doctor is just someone. They have that characteristics of wanting to be a doctor. It's in them. It's a part of their DNA, if you will. What makes them who they are. And I think as a law enforcement, it's not one of those things I think that you could just wake up one day and just decide, you know what, I'm going to be a police officer today, without not having the full range of scope of what that profession entails. Now, I know you and I have talked, and I have asked you, a long time ago, if this was something that you always wanted to do. Was this a childhood dream for you? But for me, it was. Like, I always knew I wanted to be in law enforcement, whether it was being an attorney or
I do remember that. An
FBI agent, a private investigator. All I knew is I wanted to be in law enforcement. For me, that was it. I didn't want to do nothing else but law enforcement.
Yeah.
And so I think, that's part of the one characteristic is you can't just, I don't think you can just wake up this day and say, hey, I want to do this profession. And it's not really who you are. And I think that's where, these guys and girls get out here and they make these mistakes out here and make bad decisions. Like I said, they're good cops and bad cops. I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat that. I think we all are aware of that. But what makes that good cop a really good cop is it's in his DNA to be a cop, or her DNA to be a good police officer. It's just who they are.
I can understand that. I can definitely understand that. For me, I decided late in life, pretty much when I was getting out of the military, to be a police officer. But I understood. I don't think anybody really understands what it is to be a police officer until you become one.
Right.
And you get that experience of dealing with all kinds of different types of situations and different types of people. And you understand if that's what you want to do for the next 25 plus years, right?
Right.
For me, I liked the idea that, which unfortunately has been lost, I think, by the way, in many areas. But I like the idea of people trusting me. I want to be, I felt that I had that kind of personality for people to be able to trust me and feel that they can do what I need them to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I liked being the mediator between people. If one person had problem A and versus a person had problem B, I liked being that person in the middle to figure out, this is what you should do to come together and let's figure out a solution for it.
Right.
So problem solving. We talk about characteristics for police officers. Problem solving is one of those things. Now, keep in mind, when we talk about characteristics, we're talking about just real life. We're not talking about your standardized list that you get from an academy or an application job about what your standard characteristics of a police officer are. We're speaking from a point of view after having done the job, those characteristics and more that will come into play. So number one, right at the top, is being a good mediator. And I always thought that, a good age to be a cop. I became a cop at 24. Now, by that time, I had done 6 years in the Army. I had been to 3 different places as far as I was stationed on the East Coast. I was stationed on the West Coast. I was stationed overseas.
You're right.
So I got an opportunity, a lot of life experience
Yeah.
built
Yeah.
up. I think that's also key for a police officer is
Yeah.
to have a lot of those life experiences.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I don't think people understand the amount of hats that a police officer has to wear. I mean, you're going from family counselor to consoling uh, people when you have to go to their homes and deliver the news that somebody has died. You're definitely that mediator. I mean, you're every type of counselor that there is. And for me, I came on board, and I agree with you. I think if you had to ask me what changes I think should be made in law enforcement, I would say two things. I would say up the age limit, one, and two, I would say that you would have to have some type of military experience, or you would have to be in some type of leadership role before coming on to the police department.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think those are good traits. And leadership, because as an officer, you got to be assertive. You got to be able to, you got to be able to have a command presence. I know we both heard that term a lot, like throughout our training days, academy days, and all that. You got to be able to have that command presence and confidence. To have command presence, that comes with being confident and in your abilities and what you were talking about.
Yeah, because you're putting so much responsibility into that younger person. Now I think it was 21 years old is all you have to be to apply for state police. Okay, when I think about that, when I went through the academy, I think it was maybe 7 or 8 months after I had retired. So I was just 40 years old. Yeah, 40 years old when I joined the state police. And so, going through the academy with these folks, which are really good people that I went to academy with, there were a lot of them that were young and they were, asked me a lot of questions like, does this bother you? Don't you know? Because our academy, you were up there at the academy for 5 days. You stayed there, you didn't go home. So you got there Sunday evening and you stayed till Friday afternoon, late Friday afternoon, depending on how many tests we had to take that day. Usually it was 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you were going home. And so, these young guys and girls, a lot of them never been away from home like that before. So you're adding that pressure on to them too, being away from home as a fan. And me being a veteran and been on numerous deployments over the years, me being away from the house is nothing. Like, well, how are you doing this? Don't you? Yeah, well, yeah, of course I miss my family, but I know I'm here to do a job. And that's what you need to focus on. Just do your job. Your family's gonna be all right. You'll be home on Friday. It's Tuesday. You'll be home on Friday, but I think when you up the age limit, they have time to grow up a little bit and mature. And like you said, because when you're out there, now it's not to say now, I will say there are some at that young age that can do the job. And I'll speak of one that, like I said, in the last video, I was what they call field training officer, FTO. So as the young troopers come out of the academy, they get assigned to our area office. One of them would be assigned to me. And he was a young guy, might have been 21, 22 years old, but ended up being he's still with the department today. Great guy, and very, very professional. So I'm not saying that, young guys like that or girls, young ladies can't do that job at the age. But if we're trying to make the changes instead of just, taking all the funding away from the police, let's look at, okay, should we up the age limit to get more mature, better decision making in it? Because like you said, you have to be able to make a decision very, very quickly. And I think those are some type of character, like, being humble. I think you need to have a humbling spirit. And yes, we're there to enforce the law, but we're also there as a everyday human being. Hey, look, do I really have to take this person to jail? Do I really have to write this ticket? You can have some level of compassion in there where you have, and that's why I love it, because we had the right to issue a summons, arrest, or give a warning. All right. Now, if the law said you shall, then kind of ties your hand. I got to take you to jail.
Kind of ties your hand at that point.
I got to take you to jail. But if outside that, there's any type of wiggle room where I can, you try to help people out. You're a servant, and that's what you're there to do, to serve the people, right? And overall,
that's what we talked about when we talk about wearing many hats. You said, that is you got to be the hat of an enforcer. You got to be the hat of a counselor. You got to wear the hat of a lawyer sometimes. You know, and I say that loosely because we don't usually like to give advice as far as civil laws and things like that. We can tell you to consult a civil attorney. But anything criminal, we got to advise on that. You got to be able to be responsible enough to, number one, carry a gun both on and off duty if you so choose. So some agencies require you to carry a firearm off duty.
That's right.
And ours didn't. So you got to have that level of maturity to be able to accept that responsibility and all the things that go along with that. You got to be able to talk to that 13-year-old about why he should follow his parents' rules.
Right.
Then you got to be able to talk to the 40-year-old who is the parent and tell them how to raise their 13-year-old.
Right.
Because see, when people got to realize when they call the police, that's usually because there's a situation that they are in that they don't have an answer for of how to solve it.
Right.
Or it's a situation that's already gone out of control.
Right.
So you're calling the police officer to come in and settle your issue that is out of control. So, having that age and that life experience as a police officer means a great deal when you have so many things that you may have to address or you will have to address on the job.
Yeah. And that's a very good point. For me, well, I think in the broad spectrum, for most agencies is like that, where you got to give that guidance and that instruction. And if you're, young 20-something-year-old, 21, 22-year-old, and you really haven't had that level of experience, like how can you really, try to talk to a much older adult about, raising their children, and you don't even have any kids yourself, you know what I mean? And same thing on the interstate. I think it's about commanding presence, letting people know, hey, look, I'm not conceited or whatever, but you're gonna know that I'm in charge, right? You're gonna know, Trooper Taylor was here. We need to listen to what he got to say.
I'm glad you said that. I'm in charge, because some citizens might look at that and say, well, he's arrogant, or he comes across as cocky or something like that, which could be true too. I'm not saying that's true. It's not true.
Right.
But there's a reason why usually when you come across an officer, for that command presence, like you said, you have to show a certain amount of confidence and authority, if you will, to come across. So I hope that the average citizen try not to be offended if you have an officer who does a traffic stop on you and makes contact and may sound a little direct or a little too forward, or too authoritative. And that's probably a naturally developed thing, especially an officer that's been through the years of dealing with different types of situations. That's just a natural development sometimes in their personality, if they didn't already have that before they became an officer.
Right.
And because that's the command presence, like you said, you got to establish that the officer has to establish that they are the ones in charge. It's nothing to be offended by.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, it's to keep control of the situation so it doesn't get out of control. If everybody's just running around with their heads cut off and nobody is in charge, then I mean you just all hell is just going to break loose in that situation, especially like, up on the interstate. I mean, like you have so much you have to be aware of and responsible for when you got cars still flying down the interstate, you got cars in the ditch, up in the trees, you got people bodies over here laying, you got, the mothers over here crying. You got to be able to establish a command presence, as we say, and know that, hey, all right, and just, you just have to start barking out orders, especially if you go to, a domestic. And, just because you're a state police doesn't mean that there's no domestics. I've worked numerous domestics on the interstate, which before I became a trooper, I didn't think anything like that could happen on the interstate. Boy, was I in for it.
Real quick for our viewers, when you say domestic, we're talking about like arguments between family members or worse, between family members. That's what we talk about. That's what we mean when we say domestic.
Domestic, yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
Good point. Good point. So I mean, and like I said before, another character for me is being humble. I think being humble makes you more of a humble servant. If we just keep in mind that that you're a servant, I think those are overall good characteristics of a police officer, and those are the type of police officers we should be looking for and pushing to have in our departments, and getting to know your departments. There are a lot of departments out there that are doing great things within the community to build that trust back, because over everything that's happening over the last several years, people have lost trust within the police. And this is why we're talking about this topic: what are good characteristics and bad characteristics of a police officer, so that yourself what you're looking for, and that every officer's out here to be evil, if you will. And yes, there's bad ones, and we need to do more to try to weed those individuals out, but not take no money away from departments. But what can we do to better the new troopers or officers coming into the departments, that we're getting better quality of officers coming into the state or to the local police departments.
Right.
I just think it's a lot that can be done. I mean, as far as a bad characteristic, I mean, somebody who's just not fit to be here. That, like, this individual is not cut to be a trooper. Now, we had one that is no longer with our department. Great guy, and he too was also in the military. Now, that's a catch-22 to that. Just because you in the military doesn't make you eligible for to be a police officer as well. Now, this individual, nice guy, he'll give you the shirt off his back, but was not cut to be a trooper. And so, he no longer with the department. That he didn't do anything to endanger anybody's life or anything, but he just wasn't cut. And he was older. He was older gentleman as well. So, I mean, it goes, both ways. I mean, but I think still being older, you still have more of advantage to being a better officer versus, a younger person. Not knocking the young people, like, the young people can't do the profession, but they absolutely can do the profession. And like I said, I've trained a few of them, and they're still with the department. But you know,
I hear you.
what is your take on bad police officer characteristics?
Yeah, no, well, for me, I mean, if you have a lot of the badness comes from people wanting to be an officer for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For instance, the most obvious one that sticks out, I want to be an officer because you can carry a gun.
Yeah.
You know, or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, those are the ones that are clearly not responsible or mature enough to be able to handle the job of a police officer. So we talk about being authoritative. There is a reckless way of being authoritative, and there's a controlled way of being
control. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When I'm on a traffic, for instance, I'll give you an example. When I go to, as an officer, if the officer goes to, say, a domestic dispute call, you know, and you got two family members, heated verbal confrontation, which, by the way, is another one of the most dangerous calls an officer will get. But you go to domestic dispute call and you get in there, you're the one that has to take control of that situation, like you talked about before. You got to come in there with the command presence. Now, keep in mind, you're coming into someone else's home, their private domain. You know, they called you. You come in there and you're inside their private domain, and you have to take control of a situation that they cannot control. They've been out of control, right? So you got to be able to talk to both parties and come to some kind of conclusion. Now, if you come in there authoritative and you start barking orders for no reason, just because,
right?
You know, for instance, I need you to sit down, or I need you to stand up, or I need you to put that cigarette out, or I need you to turn that light off, or turn the television off. You got to pick and choose what your whole reason for being there in the first place is to, number one, take control, and number two, maintain a safe environment. You see what I'm saying? Now, is that television turned on? Is that going to be make an environment unsafe? No, not necessarily. So you have to be able to show some kind of respect towards the homeowner who called you there, at the same time while maintaining safety. There could be a reason why the officer may want you to sit down. You see what I'm saying? Because if people are standing up and they're angry and they're hyped up, well, sometimes they're more easy to fight. You know, they're more prone to get mad at something that the other person said and go after you.
Right.
So you and on that level, you still have to maintain safety, and you have to do that in a respectful way to the home, that is respectful to the homeowner. You have to know how to talk to people so that it doesn't upset them when it's necessary not to upset them. Sometimes, no matter what you're gonna say, they're gonna be upset.
They're gonna be upset. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No matter what you say, there may come a point where you might have to put on that full authoritarian hat. You see what I'm saying? And shut it down on both sides. Sometimes that can happen. But to be mature enough to understand when those cues present themselves for you to do that is something that you have to have. A bad officer is just basically someone who doesn't have that communication skill of being able to resolve conflict. You see what I'm saying? And while respecting the people that you're talking to. You don't have to, we'll take a criminal, for example, somebody who's a career criminal, right? They have nothing but criminal history. Most of the time, if you talk to them in a respectful way, like man to man or officer to man, or however you want to say it, they'll communicate with you. They'll cooperate with you as much as they can, because a lot of times, a lot of these criminals, they want you to respect. You see what I'm saying? So you got to be able to talk to somebody like that. Don't assume that because someone has a criminal record that they are going to be disrespectful towards you, okay, as an officer, or you can just start bossing them around for no reason. Because it's almost like you're anticipating that they are getting ready to do something when they may not be.
May not, right.
Now, obviously, as an officer, in the back of your mind, you always have to be prepared for anything. Sure. But most of the time, the way you talk to people can be the biggest difference of whether or not you move on.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. You move on.
You know what I'm saying?
And that, you know, yeah, a bad police officer doesn't have those people skills. That's key. I mean, I think you have to be approachable, but at the same time be stern and to be able to process that and everything that's going on around you, and to get people to do what you need to them do. Uh, I mean, it just takes it takes life experience, I think, and um, what word am I looking for? You get your life experience and just
that maturity level.
that maturity level and that humbling spirit. Like, okay, my number one thing is whenever I went on a call or initiated a traffic stop, my number one thought process, okay, what do I need to do to get them to do what it is I need them to do? That's my number one thing. Okay, and I'm always going to try to match what they're doing, their level. Hey, I may have to, if you're young screen, hey, I may have to raise my voice a little bit so I can get you to lower your voice. All right, and you're right. And to your point, I mean, there's guys I've taken to jail, and it starts off, they're being real agitated and real mouthing. Hey, come on, man, listen, I'm talking to you like a man. I expect you to talk to me the same way, right? It's over, it's done. I mean, when you establish, hey, it's over, you know what? If you want to talk, we'll talk man to man. But if you want to, all right, you just sit and be quiet. You don't have to say nothing to me, right? But it's getting them to do what it is you need them to do, because, like I said, overall, the officer is responsible for everyone's safety. When you go into that house, you have to, because you don't know who else is in that house. That could possibly be a threat, so you gain control by having people sit down, and like you said, so if they're standing up and moving around, they're more one to possibly get into a fight, and so little things like that helps you gain control. And you can't be a hothead police officer and thinking I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna bang some heads and damn it. Like, hey, look, you in the wrong profession. You need to go.
You need to go. Back in the day, maybe they did that stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
But today,
no, sir.
You don't have that mentality today.
No.
As an officer, you just simply don't. You're gonna go in. You need to solve a problem. If you need to take control of something, you take control of something. But that's it. You cannot have that mentality of I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna knock the shit out of this guy. For lack of a better word, right? You just can't have that today.
No, you can't, and that's what gives police officers, the good police officers, the bad rap. And now everybody's blanking all the police as vigilantes out here just wanting to gun people down. And no, I could, I don't like bragging on myself or anything, but I know the type of trooper that I was, and it was always a good feeling when somebody tells you, hey, thank you for treating me the way you did, talking to them the way that you did, because they're human. I have no reason to go off on you. Hey, you violation this shit, go on, move on.
Right.
It's just boils down to the level of respect. I mean, then we can get into the training and everything, the aspect of it. Yeah, everybody's gonna go through the training, but at the end of the day, it still boils down to that person's character and who they are.
How you talk to people.
Right. Who they are.
And you brought another idea of a topic up to me for one of our upcoming shows about what to do when you are having a family dispute and you call the police and what
Yeah.
to expect. So we're
Oh,
gonna have
man.
to definitely get into that on
Yeah,
another
that's
show. 'Cause there's a
that's
lot
gonna be
there.
that's gonna be a hot topic now, you know. And I want
That's gonna be
everybody to
hot.
take away. This may seem like, you know, a very boring topic or whatever, but what we're trying to do is get you to see that they're what the characteristics of a good officer should be. You know, things we expect. So when you're out there and you know you get the opportunity to engage in conversation with a political authoritarian person, you share with them, hey, well, this is what we would like to see you do in that particular area, that police department, to get better officers in there. And you know, police department is going to do what they do. They're going to make sure they're getting good quality people in there. But it'll always help with the more information, the more positive feedback you give to the departments, the better quality of officers and troopers that we can get in there, so that at the end of the day, we all have to work together.
True. Right.
At the end of the day, we all have to work together and ensure that everybody's safe. You know, that's just the way it is. So if you like this video and you think that it has some value, please like and share this video and subscribe to our channel so you stay up to date for our latest videos. With that being said, Mike, you got any final closing remarks?
No, you definitely got, like I said, got some good ideas for another upcoming show I want to talk about. But I think we hit it on the head, you know, like you said, I mean, above all, you know, for a good officer, you got to be patient, understanding, and being able to take control of the situation. Doesn't always necessarily mean bossy and authoritarian necessarily, but a good officer would know when to apply those.
When to apply.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
and it's all about it, what's in the heart. If you're a good person in the heart, you know, you're going to be a good cop. If you can do all the other things, what's in your heart is important. And your perception of people is important. You got to be careful not to have just develop a negative perception about any group of people.
Yeah.
And you got to treat everybody the same and go into it the way it's coming back to you. That's it.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you need to treat people with respect. As if, absolutely. You know what, I'm not going to treat anybody no different than I want to be treated. And you use the right amount of level of force that is necessary. You know, that verbal judo always comes in handy.
Oh yeah, I know about that verbal judo.
that verbal judo always comes in handy.
Just for our viewers, verbal judo is a technique that was taught in law enforcement to teach officers how to talk to people who are upset. You get somebody that's upset. There's a way in certain words to use to be able to get them to calm down and kind of see it in a more rational way.
A more rational way, yeah. So again, subscribe to our channel and share it. If you like what you've seen here, you got some other ideas you would like for us to discuss, hit us up. We are on Facebook now, Brothas-In-Law. Also, we are on Instagram now at Brothas-In-Law _21. You can hit us up on Instagram now. All right. So thank you again, everyone, for joining in, checking out our channel. We'll be back next Thursday again with another video and talking about policing in our communities. And so we hope you got something out of this. Give us a thumbs up. All right. Thank you again.
All right. You guys take care.
All right, y'all. Peace.
Peace.